Good. All right, joined by Rapids defender Reggie Cannon. We'll start off with his general thoughts on the week ahead, then open up to questions.
Yeah, obviously it's a very big week ahead. Playing Dallas away is never an easy game. Obviously, being part of Dallas is like a little homecoming for me, so I'm very excited. But ultimately, I think the team knows the responsibility and the immensity of these 3 points. We're right on that line. The team's in a good way. I definitely think that after last game, the heroics by Paxton at the end, everyone really stepped up. And that starting 11 and the guys who came off the bench, Alexis Mignoma, all these guys, really gave us that boost. So I think everyone definitely knows the importance of these 3 points. So we're going to go on the road and give it the best we got.
Reggie, I heard Chris talking in training about even in fives, never giving up despite the scoreline. What does a 96th minute winner do for you guys to propel forward in these last 4 games?
Yeah, this team is. That's our identity, is never giving up, being a team that's hard to play against. And when we were modeling out our list of what this team should look like, that was the first thing that came up, a team that never gives up. And Chris, he abides by that, he embraces it. So you have a group of guys who just want to give it everything in the 96th minute, making 100-yard sprints. That's the type of team we are. And again, ultimately got to commend everyone who came in and made that huge effort, and obviously Paxton getting a touch on that, and Connor putting a great ball in. But I think guys are really hitting their stride, and I think they're getting the confidence, and what an important time to do it, with these last games in the stretch. So I'm really proud of this team, and I think we have a lot more to give.
What do you have to say about FC Dallas for this upcoming game?
I gotta say, watch out for us, because I think we definitely got something to offer, and we're a hard team to play against, like I said. But personally, I think it's gonna be very emotional for me. Going over to Europe from Dallas, and just seeing all the guys again, playing in that stadium again. It's just gonna be such an immense moment. So I'm really looking forward to it. But Dallas is obviously a very good team, and they're right behind us in the playoff race. So I think it's ultimately gonna be a good competition.
Is there an amount of points you guys are shooting for that will make you feel safe towards the playoff line?
Ultimately, we're trying to win every game. That's the message from Chris. Home or away, doesn't matter. We're trying to get those 3 points every game. But ultimately, I know statistically, obviously there's going to be a couple of advantages based on how many points we get. But, honestly, I think we're like right on that bubble, so it's really hard to say. I think we're really guaranteed a play-in, obviously play-in spot, but ultimately we're obviously going for 7th and above. So, that's what we want. I think this team is very committed and hungry to get that done. So, that's what we're looking forward to the next couple of days.
What do you think you have to change playing away, especially after the results with Galaxy and Sporting Kansas?
I think it's transition. I think that's the biggest thing when it comes to these teams. They really know how to hurt us on transition, and it starts with our rest defense. And that definitely includes me. Being tighter, ending plays, fouling when you need to. I think it's ultimately starting the second half well. I think a lot of, these away games and some of our home games have been not starting the halves well and not finishing the halves well. We went on a run, conceding a bit, and right near halftime, and then right at the start of the second half. So I think it's about getting the right energy coming in and out of the locker room, and I think that's going to be a big thing with these games.
You've played back 3, back 5, seems to be back-to-back 4 this last match. How do you feel with that back line and the new additions gelling?
Yeah, we have a lot of great guys coming to the back line making a difference. You have Rafa, obviously, who's been great. Rob, who's been great. Noah, who's been great. Keegs, has been awesome. All of these guys have really stepped up, and ultimately it doesn't really matter who's out there. I think everyone's going to be making the difference for us and holding it down. And personally, I prefer a line of 4. I think with the midfielders and the talent we have, I think it's best, and it creates a lot of opportunities for them to create more. But personally, I do think that we're more dangerous in the 4, but I think we know how to absorb. We're learning how to absorb pressure in the 5. I think that's when we go to Minnesota, you go to SKC. The game plan is to absorb that pressure and then quick on the counter, having your fullbacks fly. And obviously, Keegan getting the goal in SKC, Rafa assisting a couple. Those are what they're looking for. When we're playing that 5 back. So I definitely think there's a lot of fluidity throughout the team, but I do think the back line has a lot of structures and a lot of things that we can do to improve. But ultimately, we're getting to the right place.
Chris has 4 games left, yet to receive a contract extension. Are the players aware of this? And as you push to secure the playoffs, do the players also feel like maybe you're pushing to secure a contract extension for Armas?
Yeah, selfishly, I want Chris to stay. He's been such an immense part of this project. He's the one who ultimately convinced me to come and so many others. And he's such a prominent figure, prominent name in the game. And he even have a conversation today after training. He's he's just such a stand-up guy. He's honest. He's a realist, and he always pushes me to be the best I can be. And I haven't had a coach like that in a long time. I personally and selfishly, I'm going to say he should stay. He deserves it. I think he's one of the best coaches personally I've had. He makes playing football enjoyable. And that's definitely the biggest thing I think guys get out of this. They're excited to wake up in the morning, excited to come to work, and he makes that environment. He creates that environment for the guys, and I think that's something you can't take for granted. So, I think he should stay. I think he should have a contract. But ultimately, I get it. Football happens. So, I think we're going to make the playoffs. I think we're going to make a run. I think we're going to do some great things. But I ultimately hope to see Chris here next year.
I want to ask about something you just said about makes playing football enjoyable. Paxton also in his press conference said he wanted to play football somewhere that he'd be happy playing his soccer. Is there a sense here at the club, at the team, that this is a place where soccer players can come and really enjoy themselves?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of why people came here. There's an environment that he's created that has made the game so enjoyable. Even when things are going wrong, we're in those stretches where we're not winning games, he still comes in with a smile every day. He tells us to work on it. He gives us the specifics we need to work on, and he makes it enjoyable. He makes me excited to come to training every day and to work and to get beat on 1v1. Like he makes me happy to do that because he gives me the things and the little things that I need to work on and improve. And those are the things that coaches a lot of times don't do. They just say do better. So I think he's been around the game and he's had enough experience, obviously being the places he's been to really help players like me and everyone around here. So I think Paxton, obviously you see him shining for us, and he's a pressing machine. He wins the ball back, creating chances, getting touches on goals. These are the things that I think the environment he's created, we just can't take it for granted.
Thanks, Reggie.
Thanks, guys.